different. You never know. Like the ACT, it's hard to say, but they usually cover information that's from Algebra 1 and geometry and a little bit of Algebra 2. So I think you can do it, Connor. Okay, let's start number 1 here. Let me zoom in. So one thing you have to think about is being good at making a guess and looking at, because almost every question is going to be, you know, multiple choice. See how they have 5 choices? And you'll have to think about how you can eliminate the ones that don't make sense very quickly, okay? All right, so let's read this question. The blood types of 150 people were determined for a study as shown in the figure below, okay? And then it says, here's the figure, right? Blood type O, A, B, and AB. If one person from this study is randomly selected, what is the probability that this person has either type A or type AB blood? So A or AB. Or, I don't know if you remember this because you learned it in Algebra 1. When you do or probabilities, you add. You add. So you're going to have to find the probability of an A. So how many A's are there? They're telling you right there that there's 67 A's. So that'll be 67 out of the total.
Yeah.
And then you also have the AB is 6 out of it. So you have to go 67 out of the total plus 6 out of the total. So we need the total, all right? So they told you the total at the top of the problem, so you don't have to add it up. 150. So 67 plus 6 is 73 out of 150. Okay?
Yeah.
So Mr. McCarty is going to help you take it, and you're going to have to tell him to push buttons on the calculator. Is that right?
I will. Oh no, I can do that with you because you.
I understand, Connor. I will talk to them and I will ask if maybe if it's possible for me to help you during the day and get a substitute teacher in my classroom. I will ask about that. Okay. All right, let's get started. So 73 over 150 is D. Okay. So now, even if it's me, you would have to tell me to add 67 plus 6 and give you the answer. And then you would have to tell me which one. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you ready to do the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2. The monthly fees for single rooms at 5 colleges are $370, $310, $380, $340, and $310 respectively. What, and that word respectively just means for each one. It's a silly word. Just ignore it. What is the mean of those monthly incomes? Do you remember what mean means?
Yeah.
It means average. So what do you do for an average? Add and what? Yeah, so we'll go this plus this plus this plus this plus this, and then we'll divide by. How many are there? Yeah, so you have to do the total divided by 5, right?
Yeah.
So if we try to work through every question completely, we will run out of time. I think it's better if we just talk about what to do, right? Like we don't have to do the math. I'm sure you can tell somebody to go 370 plus 310 plus 380 plus 340 plus 310. Add that on the calculator and then divide by 5. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one.
I hope I don't get the same one. I hope they don't give me the same one.
The same one?
Yeah.
They won't. They won't give you the same one. This is one that they released on the internet. So it's like it's an older one that they don't use anymore. But it's still good to study. On a particular road map, 1/2 inch represents 18 miles. About how many miles apart are two towns that are 2.5 inches apart on this map? So if they're saying every 1/2 inch is 18, and then they're saying it's 2.5 on the map, then you need to figure out if the whole thing's 2.5 on the map and every 1/2 inch is 18, don't you have to figure out how many halves fit into this whole 2.5? So it's like a half and a half. So what will it be? 2 halves makes 1, then another 2 halves makes 2, right? So what kind of math do you have to do to figure out how many halves will fit into 2.5? You know? You could go 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1. You can keep doing that. But let's think about it with some different numbers for a second. If I ask you how many 5s will divide into 1, oh, I just told you, shoot. You can divide. Can't you do 1/2 into 2.5? So you can do 2 1/2 divided by 1/2.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? That's what you can do. And you can do that on a calculator, and you will get 5. Okay? So that means that there's 5 of these 1/2 inches that each represent 18 miles. So there's, each one of these little sections is 18, each little 1/2 inch is 18, right? So if I have 5 little 1/2 inches and each one of those 1/2 inches is worth 18, then what do I do? Good. So 5 times 18 is 90. So that was kind of a tricky question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, number 4. Given f equals cd cubed, f equals 450, and d equals 10, what is c? Do you need me to zoom that so you can read it better?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you have me write down first if I'm replacing things in this formula?
F.
Yep. So 450 equals, then what?
E.
Do I have a number for C?
No.
Okay, so I just have to write C. Then what do I write?
You make that a X.
Make the C an X?
Yeah.
Okay. Then what? We're in this formula. So what comes after the C?
A.
So what do we put?
A.
Okay, and then what?
you.
Okay. So now they want us to solve for the variable, right? So what do we do?
No one.
Okay, what am I dividing by?
Yeah.
Good. 10 cubed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to do this math. So if you're working with somebody, even with me, then you're going to have to say now divide. And you can't just say to me divide. You have to say do 450 divided by 10 cubed. And then I can do that on the calculator. Okay. So that is going to be, the calculator is going to give us a decimal of 0.45 if we do the problem on the calculator. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is that answer.
I got no believe not only.
You what?
I got no believe not only.
You're going to read you're going to leave?
No, I got no believe not only.
You're going to bring the,
No, I got no believe not. If I get hungry, why there?
oh, a snack?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got you now. Yeah, they give you snack time. Okay, number 5. If f of x equals 3x plus 7 squared, then f of 1 equals question mark. So what do I need to do? Plug in 1 for what? Okay. So I would have to write what? If I was typing on the calculator, what would I have to put?
3, 9, 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Connor, I would tell the person to put the parentheses too, okay? Like I would tell them to type everything that's there. So I would tell them to type this on the calculator. I would say parentheses 3 times 1 plus 7 parentheses squared. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what I would tell them to type. And that's going to give you...
Do you play like what you done?
I don't think so. I think they'll only let you use the calculator. So you have to tell them what buttons to push on a calculator. So they can let you look at the graphs on a graphing calculator.
But I can't see the clock on the graphic out.
Oh, I understand what you mean now. Not a big enough screen. I don't know the answer to that now that you say it. I'll have to talk to Mr. McCarty and ask him, okay? All right, let's look at number 6. George's current hourly wage for working at Denti Smiles is $12. George was told that at the beginning of next month, his new hourly wage will be an increase of 6% of his current hourly wage. What will be George's new hourly wage?
Got to start with the $12.
Okay.
Go up.
Yes. So how do you show it's going up 6%? Do you remember?
No, for 5.
Okay. Multiply times what?
Yeah. 0.6.
Good. 0.06. Okay.
Yeah.
So then that will give you, it'll give you 0.72. So this is just the increase amount. Which one of the answers shows you the right answer?
8.
H. Got you. Good job. Good job. Okay, number 7. You're doing great. There's 60 questions. So we can try and do 15 of them this time. We're right on pace. The first term is 1 in the geometric sequence, 1, -3, 9, -27. What is the 7th term in this sequence? So we've got 1, -3, 9, -27, comma. What is the 7th term? So couldn't you just figure them out one thing at a time? You have 4 terms. Then you would have the 5th term, the 6th term, the 7th term. And the 7th one would be the right answer, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to have to figure out the pattern. So what's happening every time?
It's going from the negative.
You're right. So they must be multiplying for that to happen.
Yeah.
They're multiplying times a negative number. So 1 times what is -3? -3, right? If you do -3 times -3, then you get +9.
doing that. Yeah, doing that. On -7. -1.
Good. That's what we have to do. That will give us the number 81.
81 by -1.
You're doing great, Connor. That would be -243. So now let's look at their choices, okay? We're not even going to do the next thing. If we go times -3 again, it can't be this, right? It can't be A. It can't be B. Because it can't get smaller, right? Can't be C. Can't be D. So what's the right answer? E.
Yeah.
So we went far enough when we got to -243, didn't we? All right, next question. The shipping rate for customers of Ship Quick consists of a fee per box and a price per pound for each box. The table below gives the fee and the price per pound for customers shipping boxes of various weights. The weight of the box in pounds, if it's less than 10, it's this much and that much. If it's 10 to 25, this much and that much. More than 25, this much and that much. Greg wants to ship quick wants Ship Quick to ship 1 box that weighs 15 pounds. What is the shipping rate for this box? So let's go back to the beginning. The shipping rate consists of a fee and a price per pound. So if it's 15 pounds, we're going to go look at which row? Top, middle, bottom.
No.
Yep. So now you tell me what math I need to do.
Multiply.
So we're going to go $15 Since the price per pound, there's 15 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And the price per pound is this. So that gets multiplied, right?
Yeah.
What do we do about the feet?
Uh,
Good. So you would tell the person who's with you, you would say, do 15 times 0.65 plus 10. That's the math you would tell them to do, okay? And that's going to give you, here, I need to look on Desmos for a second. Sure. I have to open Desmos first.
I know it like what me. No, you might know. On the quiz.
Yeah, they just, Connor, they don't let anybody do that, you know? So it's okay. All right, so you see I did 0.65 times 15, and then I did plus 10, and it gave me 19.75, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's, yeah, that's H, right? Number 9, a computer chip 0.32, oops, sorry. A computer chip 0.32 centimeters thick is made up of layers of silicon. If the top and bottom layers are each 0.03 centimeters thick, and the inner layers are each 0.02 centimeters thick, how many inner layers are there? And then you look at the diagram, and they're showing you whole thing is 0.32 thick. Now let's reread this part right here. If the top and the bottom are each that, and the inner layers are that. So what math do you need to do? Yeah, so you have a point, when they say the top and the bottom are that, they're saying there's like an outer coating that's a different thickness than what's on the inside. Kind of like an Oreo cookie. How there's the 2 chocolate pieces on the top and the bottom, but there's filling in the middle. You know what I mean? Okay. So there's a 0.03 for the top, and there's a 0.03 for the bottom, and then there's 0.02 for the layers in the middle. And they're asking you, how many middle layers are there? So what could you do first with this problem? Yeah. Couldn't you, since you know that there's exactly 0.03 for the top and 0.03 for the bottom, couldn't you go ahead and add those together to start?
Yeah.
And that would be how much? Sure. So 0.03 times 2 is 0.06, right? Now what? Doesn't that have to come out of the total?
Yeah.
So what do I do?
Mine.
Good. So minus 0.06, and that gives me 0.26 left. So now what? Put it what? Over 2?
We gotta do the
Yes. What operation do we need to use?
no. We need no. multiple.
So we could do division.
Yeah.
Because we want to know how many of these.
Divide.
Yeah, how many of those fit into that? So we did get to divide by 0.2. So that gives us 13.
And
Okay. Number 10. The table below shows the number of cars James sold each month last year. What is the median of the data in the table? Do you remember what a median is? Oh, goodness. A median, do you remember what that is? There's mean, median, mode, range.
yeah.
Median is the middle number.
Middle number.
So you have to put the list in order.
Yeah.
And then you find the number in the middle. And a lot of people just tell people to cross things off. So if we put this in order, the smallest number here is 13. And then the next number is,
Yeah.
okay. And then,
19.
and another 19. Then what? Good. Okay. There's another.
Yeah.
And then these are all in order, 26, 27, 28, 29. All right. Now what do we do? Good. You cross it off. So if it's not me there, you have to say cross off the top one now, or the first one, and cross off the last one.
Yeah.
Cross off the first one and cross off the last one. Now cross off the first one and cross off the last one, and cross off the first one and cross off the last one, and cross off the first one and cross off the last one. Now, what do I have to do? Yes, you have to add these and divide by 2.
Yeah.
So 22 and 25 is 47. And 7 divided by 2 is which one of these answers? Good job. I'm proud of you. Okay, next question. Number 11. Students studying motion observed a cart rolling at a constant rate along a straight line. Here, I'll zoom it. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. The table below gives the distance d feet the cart was from a reference point at 1 second intervals from t equals 0 seconds to t equals 5 seconds. So you can see that in the table. Here's the t for time, and it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it goes for 5 seconds. And this is the d, which is for the distance in feet. So basically, how far it was from a reference point. So that means how far it was away from something. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Which of the following equations? Which of the following equations? Or you can
Hello.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, which of the following equations represents this relationship between D and T? So basically, they want you to write an equation for the table. Okay? So do you remember how to do that? I'll remind you. If it's linear and if it's got constant motion, which is that is what they said. They said, oops, I'm sorry. They said a constant rate. So if it's a constant rate, it's linear. Then linear equations are usually y equals mx plus b, right?
Yeah.
This will be the rate, like the speed. This will be the starting distance. At time 0 is when you start, right?
Yeah.
So that is your b value. So guess what? You can look at your equations right now and you can pick the one out that has that.
Hey,
Yeah, it might be A. So let's check A. Okay. So that would mean your speed has to be like 1. Well, if that's right, then, and I don't think it is, let's check. Okay. So how do you find slope? Don't you have to go through the y's and do the y change over the x change?
Yeah.
So how much is this growing by on the y's? Yeah. 6/1, right? So the speed should be 6 for the slope. Yes. Good job, Connor. Yes, I'll mark out the A. There you go. All right.
And the other one.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So now we're on question number 12. The length, oops, let me get the paper right. The length of a rectangle with area 54 square centimeters is 9 centimeters. What is the perimeter of the rectangle in centimeters? So here, I'm going to draw a rectangle. Yeah, you're right. So it says the length of a rectangle with area of 54. So I'm going to be like, okay, here's the area. Is 9 centimeters. The length is 9. But the width, they didn't tell you the width. That's weird. They must think that you can figure it out. How could you figure out the width if you know the area?
God, no. Nobody by 9.
Good job. So 54 divided by 9 is 6. Now they want the perimeter. Is it just 6 plus 9 is 15?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Because perimeter goes all the way around like
Yeah.
a fence. So 6 plus 9 plus another 6 and another 9. So it's 6 plus 9 times 2. So what is it?
Holy.
Yes. All right, number 13. In the figure below, C is the intersection of segment AD
Yeah.
and segment BE. So they're saying C is the intersection. Okay. It can be determined what is the measure of angle BAC. So where's BAC? BAC is right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you remember about bow tie vertical angles?
Yeah.
Well, then isn't this 45?
Yeah.
Good. Now what do I do? What do you want me to add? Good job, Connor. And now what?
Nobody.
Not divide. What does the whole triangle have to add up to? Good job. You must have had a really good geometry teacher. Okay, so our answer is
B.
yeah. So those two facts that you just used are that the three angles always add up to 180. And when you have a bow tie shape, you've got vertical angles that are congruent in the middle. All right. Okay,
Yeah.
let's look at number 14 now. Antoine drew the circle graph below describing his time spent at school. In 1 day of school. His teacher said that the numbers of hours listed were correct, but that the central angle measures for the sectors were not correct. There's a lot of vocabulary there, so let me help you understand what they're saying. The central angle is like these angles that I'm putting the dots on. Those are the central angles. So basically what they're saying is they put the right information on the thing, but they didn't shape this out right. If you want it to represent the data, then like this one here, if you're going to put core subjects is 4 hours and make half the circle be that, then the 4 hours needs to be half of the total hours, you know? So like that would mean the whole thing has to total 8, but it doesn't, because look at this. 3 + 1 + 1 is 5 + 4 is 9. So this wedge is too big. It should be a little bit smaller. So that's what they're trying to say. They're saying the central angle sectors are not right. What should be the central angle measures for the core subjects? So that's the one we just talked about, right? So this is 4 hours out of the total, which we figured out a moment ago is 9 hours, right? So it should be 4/9 of the full circle. Well, here's what we can do. How many degrees are in a total circle? Connor, are you there? Can you hear me? Yeah? I think you lost your audio. I'm going to keep going because it's still recording. So since the entire circle is equal to a total of 360, but there was 9 hours total, you can write a proportion and you can say 4 out of 9 equals X out of 360. And you can solve this. You can do your cross product. There you are.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. So what I kept going because the recording was going. So what you can do there is you can say it equals X out of 360 because there's 360 in a circle. There's 360 degrees. And then you can do your cross product. You can do this times this. So 4 times 360 is 720, 1440. And then that equals the cross product the other way, which is 9x. And then we have to divide by 9. So we get 160. Now, I want you to understand how you could have estimated this, okay? Look at the choices. Isn't 160 the only answer they have there that makes any sense at all? Because it's not exactly half of 9, but 4 is close to half of 9, right? Because 4.5 would have been half of 9 exactly. And so since a half of a circle is 180 degrees, you know it needs to be a little bit less than 180. And the only number they have that's less than 180 but close is the 160. So they actually made the question easy to guess. Yeah. Okay. We're going to do one more question, and then that's going to be 1/4 of the way, and that's going to put us at 7 o'clock. Number 15. This month, Cammie sold 70 figurines in 2 sizes. The large figurines sold for $12 each, and the small figurines sold for $8 each. The amount of money he received from the sales of the large figurines was equal to the amount he received from the sales of the small figurines. How many large did he sell this month? Oh my goodness, this is a tough question. So here's what they got to do. 8 times x plus 12 times y, because it's $8 for one kind and it's $12 for the other kind, okay?
Yeah.
That would give us the total amount that they sold, okay?
Yeah.
Except for they didn't tell us the total. All they told us was the amount of money he got from one was equal to the amount for the other. So instead of adding it up, I messed that up. We need to say 8x equals 12y for one equation. Then the other equation comes from this sentence. He sold 70 altogether.
Yeah.
So that means x plus y is 70. Do you
Yeah.
know what this is? This is a system of equations problem.
Yeah.
We can do substitution, can't we?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to have to,
Yeah.
yeah, but we don't have a variable isolated. So do you want me to isolate this x maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to go minus y minus y. Then we have x equals 70 minus y. Then we have to put that in here, right?
Yeah.
And do substitution. So then we'll have 8 times 70 minus y equals 12y.
Yeah.
And then we have to work it out. So if I distribute 8 times 70, I'll have 560. And then 8 times negative y, so that's negative 8y, equals 12y. Sorry that this is in the way. I'll put a new piece of paper there. Good. So then we'll go plus 8y on both sides. And then this goes away. 560 equals 20y, because 12y and 8y is 20y. Now what? Good. And that gives me 28 equals y. And now, sorry, I got to move my paper. Now what can I do? Yeah, so let's go look and see which one they wanted you to solve for. They said, how many large figurines did they sell? So the large ones sold for 12.
Yeah.
Okay. So the $12 ones were the y's, and we just solved for y. So we're actually done. We don't have to plug back in and get x. So the answer is Oops, the answer is B, 28. Okay? All right, so it's time to stop because it's past 7. And then, okay. So we're going to kind of pick up where we left off. We're on question number 16.
Can we go back? Can we go back to
This was the one that was a word problem and made equations, and then we solved it using substitution.
Oh, I remember.
Okay. So number 16 says, a car accelerated from 88 feet per second to 220 feet per second in exactly 3 seconds. Assuming the acceleration was constant, what was the car's acceleration in feet per second from 88 feet per second to 220 feet per second? So what they're saying is that it's going in only 3 seconds. It's going from this from 88 to 220. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, it's not. If it's accelerated, I need you to think it's going faster and faster and faster. So it has this kind of shape to its graph. Do you remember that this is called an exponential function?
Oh.
And those have an equation like this. Oops, hold on, I messed up.
Y equal
AB to the x power, sorry, AB to the x power. So
I only remember that.
okay, so the thing is, to find out, we know A is your start amount, okay?
Yeah.
And we know the final amount, so that can go here. And we know the time is 3 seconds. So it would be the final amount equals the starting amount times you don't know B, and then raise it to the third power.
The Y.
Good. So then you would have to use a calculator. So you would have to do 220 divided by 88. So I'm just going to do that really quick on a calculator. I got 2.5. So I'm kind of running out of room right here, but I'm going to write it up here. What?
Now we gotta cube it.
Good. Cube root it, right? Cube root it. So we need a cube root of 2.5. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my Desmos tab. So I already have, excuse me, I already have that answer in there, and I have to cube root it. Do you remember the cube root is so annoying? It's like way, way, way down the list. All the way at the bottom. So I'm going to scroll all the way. Okay, there we go. It says 1.357.
and you make it critical.
Oh, did I stop sharing? I didn't stop sharing yet. No, I can't really make it much bigger. So,
Oh, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
oh, okay. So, wait, what does this say? What was the car's acceleration in feet per second? Huh.
It gotta be number one.
No, this doesn't match any of their answers, Connor, so I'm trying to understand why. I'm guessing that I'm not understanding their question and that all they want is for us to do 220 minus 88 and divide it by 3. Oops. Like the final minus the initial divided by 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Desmos. And we'll pull up fraction. I'm not seeing, I don't even know how to do fraction on here. Darn it. Let me try again. I'm sorry, I've never used Desmos to do a fraction, so I've never thought about it before. I guess I'll just click divided by. So 220 minus 88 equals divided by, now it's going to work. Okay. 132 divided by 3. 44. So that's H. I guess that's right.
Yeah.
I guess I just misunderstood what they wanted to find out. They didn't want the exponential equation. Okay, number 17. In a plane, the distinct lines A and CD. What? Oh, okay. All right.
That way I don't get confused when I walk. It way.
In a plane, the distinct lines AB and CD intersect at A, where A is between C and D. All right, so let's draw that. So A, B, C, D. It says they intersect. Shoot, they intersect at A. Okay. A is between C and D. Okay, this matches their description. Read it again. In a plane, the distinct lines, which distinct just means two separate lines, A, B, and C, D intersect at A, where A is between C and D. The measure of angle BAC is 47 degrees. That goes here. What is the measure of angle BAD? So do you understand where that angle is, BAD?
Yeah, it goes up, then goes down.
Right there. Okay?
Yeah.
Because you trace out BAD, it's right there. So how can I find this angle over there?
Plug it in.
Well, there's nothing to plug in. What do I know about straight lines?
Yeah. I don't know.
It makes a linear pair that adds up to 180.
Alright.
Right? When you have a straight angle, it's 180 degrees.
We gotta do that 180 degrees.
And then we have to subtract 47. So that's going to give us 133. Okay? You just have to remember a linear pair has a straight line on the side and it has a 180-degree total.
Yeah.
No, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, number 18. In which of the following are 1/2, 5/6, and 5/8 arranged in ascending order? Do you know what this word ascending means?
No.
It means least to greatest. It means they're getting bigger. Okay? So which one has the smallest number coming first? Good job. All right, number 19. In scientific notation, 670 million plus 700 million equals what? So they want us to add those, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I add them, I get this number.
1.7 million.
Right. So they want to know which one of these is in scientific notation. So how many decimal hops do you have to take? You have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
9.
D. Okay, next question. For trapezoid ABCD shown below, segment AB is parallel to segment DC. The measures of the interior angles are distinct, and the measure of angle D is x degrees. What is the degree measure of angle A in terms of x? So you understood they were saying A, B, and D, C are parallel, right?
Right.
Well, then that means that this is a transversal. And these angles here and here are same side interior angles. Do you remember what they have to add up to?
180.
Good job. So which one of these is the right answer? Because they're asking you to say this angle here in terms of x. So if you knew this angle, what would you do to get that one? No, because you told me they add to 180. So if you knew this one was like 10 degrees, what would you do to get that one?
My.
Exactly. So which is the right answer?
A.
Yep, the top one. Okay, number 21. To get a driver's license, let me zoom this one more time because you said I had it zoomed one more time last time. And it barely fits, but well, it doesn't exactly fit, does it? Let me make it go higher and it'll fit. That's a little bit better. Hold on just 1 second. I had this zoomed in really well last time. There, that's better. Good, okay. To get a driver's license, an applicant must pass a written test and a driving test. Past records show that 80% of the applicants pass the written test, and 60% of those who have passed the written test pass the driving test. Based on these figures, how many applicants in a random group of 1,000 applicants would you expect to get a driver's license?
Okay.
So from the very beginning, it says 80% pass the written test. So couldn't we find out what 80% of 1,000 is?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think is 80% of 1,000? %80 is like this, right? 80 out of 100.
Yeah.
So what would it be out of 1,000?
I don't know.
Really? Are you sure? Check it out. Look, check it out. Wouldn't yes. So then that's how many people pass the written test. Then it says 60% of those who have passed the written test pass the driving test. So we have to find 60% of 800. No, you can't cross multiply. We need to know 60% of 800. So what we have to do is make a decimal out of this percent and then do times for of, because you always do times for of, and then 800.
Yeah.
So how do I write 60% as a decimal?
Yeah. Oh.
Good job. So we have to do 0.60 times 800. Okay? So if I do that on a calculator, I get 480. Which is that one. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, Connor, we could have used our number sense because, or like if you had a wrong answer, we could have figured it out because 60% is more than half, right? Just a little bit more than half.
Yeah.
Well, we need a number that's a little bit more than half of 800. And when we look at their choices, that's the only one that makes sense to be a little bit more than half of 800 because half of 800 is 400. So 200 would not make sense. 600 is way too big. These other answers are way too big. So it's the only one that even makes sense. Right? So remember to use that kind of thinking if you come to a question on the test and you're not sure what to do, because no one's going to be able to tell you, you know, whether you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. They won't be able to give you any hints at all, right? So if you're stuck, don't tell the person giving you the test, don't say, I don't know. If you're stuck, you can ask them to cross off ones that you think should be crossed off, okay? You can say to them, cross off A, cross off D, and then you can start looking at the ones that are left and make a guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, here's number 22. If A, B, and C are positive integers, do you remember what integers means? It means like positive and negative whole numbers. But they're telling you that it's only positive integers. So that means numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So A, B, and C are all positive integers such that a to the b power, a to the b power equals x. And C, I know this looks really tiny, so I'm trying to help. C to the b power equals y. Then x times y equals what? So, aren't they kind of giving you formulas for everything?
Yeah.
So I'm going to rewrite it bigger what they said because it's so tiny. A to the b equals x. C to the b equals y. X times y equals what? That's what the question says. So tell me what to write. Or do you want to just look over? Well, I think you're going to have to multiply it and think about it. I don't think you can just guess. Okay. Okay. All right. Hold on.
You know what I mean?
Okay. So this is x, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is y. So if I want to do x times y, couldn't I do substitution?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what I would write. A to the b times c to the b. That's what you would write. Okay, so then you need to think about which one of these things means the same thing as that. Well, this is a great time for us to do that crossing off thing because there's so many different weird choices here.
I know. I might always know.
What do you think?
B.
Did you say B? The letters are F, G, H, J, K.
You make the A.
Well, I know you don't like those, but when you take the ACT, they're going to give you those letters. They do it that way.
Well, I can play the bell.
Oh, you can't say F, G, H, J, K. Okay, so A, B, C, D, E. Which one? Or can you just say like the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth, you know?
Yeah.
So let me zoom it backwards because you couldn't see your work anymore. There's your work.
A.
H is the right answer. It's C. Did you figure that out? That one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay. Number 23. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to all of that?
And what moment I know.
Can I write it what?
Can you let me moment I know?
Hold on, Connor. Hold on a second. Can I? Okay, I heard you say can I, and then what's the third word?
What? And you let me moment I know.
Let him know what? About the letters?
Yeah.
I've already thought about that. Yes, I will. That's a good thing that you told me about it. So let's keep going. I already have it written down on a Post-it note.
Hmm.
Well, which of those are a bunch of those letters hard for you to say? Like when it's A, B, C, D, E, you don't have trouble saying any of those letters? Is there any single one of these that is hard for you to say?
No.
Okay, but some of these are. F, I know you can probably say F, right? But is G hard to say?
Yeah.
And H is sort of okay, but sometimes hard. J is hard.
No.
G and J, are those the tough ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You can do K without any trouble?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell him that that's the reason why. I'll put that in the note because G and J are very difficult to say. I got you. Okay, so number 22. This says 1 y squared. Are you all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you sneezing or coughing?
Oh.
Do you need to take a break and get a drink or something?
No.
Okay. So what should I be doing with this problem?
We got the beautiful.
Good job.
No.
Good job. Okay. So the first term, we're going to do number with number, letter with letter, variables together, numbers together.
Yeah.
So half of 6, I would write 3. Y squared times X does not combine, so you just write all of it down.
Yeah.
Then we need the plus. What is half of 2?
1.
And then Y squared times Y.
Like you. Why? You.
Oh, cubed. I'm sorry. Connor, I'm so sorry. I heard what you said a moment ago, and it sounded kind of like thank you. Sometimes the audio on the on the Zoom meeting is not the greatest. Okay, what's half of 12?
Yeah.
Good. And then Y squared times X, that doesn't combine. You write the whole thing. Yeah. And then the last term, half of 2 is 1 again. Now, you don't want to forget this, right?
Why?
So minus 1. And then Y squared times Y
Why?
cubed.
Why?
So what do I do now?
Combine my term.
Good job. Your cough sounds like it's really bothering you.
Yeah.
Did you swallow funny maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when I do 3xy squared and 6xy squared, what do I get?
9y.
Yeah. So I have 9.
9y.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. And then 1y cubed minus 1y cubed.
Why? You.
Let's check their answers.
Oh my God.
So you think it's this one right here?
Yeah.
Let's go look. 1y cubed minus 1y cubed.
No, number 1.
Yeah, exactly. Number 24. An artist makes a profit of 500p minus P squared dollars from selling P paintings. What is the fewest number of paintings the artist can sell to make a profit of at least $60,000? So let's start back from the beginning. We want a profit of 60,000. We're going to go back and reread. An artist makes a profit of 500 P minus P squared dollars by selling P paintings. So P stands for the paintings, but what's the profit? The profit is the whole equation.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what do I do?
You feel like that you can.
Yes, I can. And then you need to put, that is the profit. So if it is the profit, what do you do with the 60,000?
Okay.
No, because the P's stand for the paintings.
No why.
No, this is the profit. What is the math symbol for is?
My
Yes. This was tricky of them. You have to do that because 60,000 is the answer. This finds the profit, and this is the answer of the profit.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what do I do? So I want you to stop for a second and think about something. When you solve equations, if the equation looks like this, that's a linear equation. And with a linear equation, you always get all the x's on the left, right? And then you divide and you get the number and you're done, right? You want the number on one, you want the variable over here, you want the numbers over there.
Yeah.
That's because it's linear, right? This is not linear. What is this? It's quadratic. It's quadratic. It's quadratic. Good job, Connor. So I don't want to bring the 500 over here. What do I want to do? I want this guy to go over there, don't I?
Yeah.
So I'm going to minus the 60,000 on both sides. So then I have 0 equals. Now, if I'm going to put this whole thing in standard form, what goes first? You forgot? Yes, and it has this sign on it.
My negative.
Yep, negative P squared, then what? Is it positive or negative? Good. And then what? Good, negative 60,000. I'll do that one for you. So you want me to do quadratic formula. Okay, so here, let me get a scrap of paper because my page is really small at the bottom there. Okay, so, okay. This is your A, this is your B, this is your C, right? So tell me what to put. Yes, but I need to tell you something. I don't think I'm allowed to tell it to you during the ACT. Okay, there you go. So it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Negative. I know. I know.
Let me zoom back. Sorry. There you go. Next. Oops, my paper slipped. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
My, oh, my, one,
What is A?
negative.
Good.
Negative. Negative one.
Okay. So now you would need a calculator. Okay, so I'll get Desmos.
Will they let me use that?
I don't know. Mr. McCarty is supposed to ask, sweetie. I have no idea. If they don't, I know what your issues are. I just don't know what they're going to say. So we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so we have to do, so there's got to be a way to do oh, I remember what it did earlier. Earlier when I tried to tell it divide first, then it made me a fraction. There we go. So negative 500 plus square root of 500 minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 60,000. Or, yeah, 60,000. All over 2 times negative 1. It says the answer is 200. So I'll bring you back. That is one of their answers right there. Wait, what did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Make that bigger.
Oh, make that bigger, please. Okay.
No. No.
Oh, it's still in the other thing. Now I know. Okay, can you see that? So the answer is 200.
Yeah.
Okay. Next page. 25. Last month, Lucy had, hold on a second. Lucy had total expenditures of $900. The pie chart below breaks down these expenditures by category. The category in which Lucy's expenditures were greatest, what percent of her total expenditures to the nearest 1%? So the category in which her expenditures were greatest is what percent of her total. So which one is the greatest? Yeah, so you can see that's this word right here, the clothes. So the 254 is the greatest. Now, if you wanted to find out what percent it is out of the whole thing, what do you need to do? They even told you this word, percent of her total. So you need to know what part it is of the total, don't you?
Yeah.
So you do part to whole. You need to know the total. So what do? I'm going to have to add all of those up, right?
Yeah.
So remember, even if it's me on test day, I can't tell you any hints like that. You would just have to look at it, and then you would have to start telling me, you got to add 254 plus 219 plus 120 plus 182 plus 125. Okay? Or you could say to me, add the numbers in the circle. You know? If it's too many numbers to say, you can say add all of those numbers.
Yeah.
Okay? All right.
The one.
Yeah, we're going to divide after. You're right. Okay. So it is 120 plus 182 plus 125 plus 219 plus 254 equals 900. It told me it was 900 for the total. So now I have to do the 254 divided by 900. And the screen says, you see what it says, right? Good. So now we're going to pick the right choice. So good. Number 26. In the figure shown below, the measure of angle BAC, you see that right there, right? Is x plus 20 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that label on there. BAC is x plus 20. And the measure of BAD is this whole big thing, is 90. Well, they have that on there. What is the measure of CAD? CAD is here. So what do you have to do? Yes. Okay. Equals 90? No. X plus 20 is this part. If you add that to this, it equals 90, right? Okay. So you don't know the measure of CAD. So X plus 20 plus CAD equals 90. So if you want to know CAD, we could isolate this CAD, right? Minus X minus 20 minus X minus 20. CAD equals 90. My pen's dying. Hold on, let me get a better pen. 90 minus X minus 20, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so which one of these looks like the same idea as 90 minus X minus 20? Well, where did they get the 70 from? What do you think? Didn't they just do this?
Yeah.
Okay, so CAD is X. B. Which is really G, but it's B. Number 27. What is the perimeter in inches of the isosceles right triangle shown below, whose hypotenuse is 8 times the square root of 2 inches long? All right. It says they want the whole perimeter, right? So that means we have to add up all the sides, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't know this side and we don't know that side, but we know that they're the same. So I'm going to put x on both sides. So I can make an equation in Pythagorean theorem for this first, because I don't know one of the sides. I have to solve it. So we have x squared plus x squared equals 8 square root of 2 squared.
Yeah.
So that's 2x squared equals this. We would just use Desmos for that, you know, but I know the answer. 8 square root of 2 squared is 128. So then that 2x squared equals 128. So then I divide by 2. X squared equals 64. Square root gives me 8. So that means this is 8 and this is 8 because they're both the same. So then you want to see the answer choices now?
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Hey.
They want the whole perimeter, all 3 sides added together.
Oh. Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you have to do the 8 plus the 8 and then plus 8 square root 2. So that's the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 28. The equation y equals ax squared plus bx plus c is graphed in the standard xy coordinate plane below for real values of a, b, and c. When y equals 0, which of the following best describes the solution for x? So you remember the solutions are just the x-intercepts right there and right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so here are their choices. They're saying describe these 2 solutions. 2 distinct positive real solutions, 2 distinct negative real solutions, 1 positive real and 1 negative real, 2 real that are not distinct, 2 distinct that are not real. So is it A, B, C, D, or E? Which one? I couldn't hear you.
Hey.
H. Are you saying H?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying A. Okay, H. That is right. That is good. Good job. That was an Algebra 2 question, wasn't it? Good job with that. Number 29. We have 2 more left to do, and we're right on time. Number 29. Oops, I got to scoot the paper a little bit more. What is the product? What are they telling you to do when they say product, Connor?
Nobody.
Multiply. What is the product of the complex numbers negative 3i plus 4 and 3i plus 4?
No, yeah.
So we're going to have to work it out to be sure, aren't we?
Yeah.
But don't you realize that this looks a lot like some conjugates they're the complex conjugate and they might cancel each other out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and do it. This times this would be negative 9i squared. Then we have negative 12i.
Yeah.
Then we have
Why?
then we have good. So we were right. This is going to cancel the middle out.
Come on.
So what is negative 9i squared? Do you remember that I squared is negative 1? Because oops, I moved the paper too much. I is the square root of
Yeah.
-1, and I squared is -1.
Yeah.
So that right there, -1. So I'm going to go 1, and I'm going to change the sign to make it a -1 times -9 is positive.
Yeah.
So now what is the answer?
1.5.
Yeah. Last question. The radius of the base of the right circular cone shown below is 5 inches. They have that labeled. See it right there where my finger is? 5.
Yeah.
Okay. And the height of the cone is 7 inches. That is also labeled right there. Solving which of the following equations gives the measure theta? That's a theta symbol with the little hyphen in the middle. Gives the measure theta of the angle formed by a slant height of the cone and a radius. So, isn't this just a little right triangle inside of here?
90.
Yes. So, this is 90, but they want to know the angle over there. So, what math can we do? We can do trigonometry. Look at their answers. They did trig.
Yeah.
This is so Katoa. I bet you're going to remember this. You're going to remember. Here we go.
I always do.
What?
I always do.
Oh, good. So then if I start at the theta, which one is 7? Is it the O, the H, or the A? Do you remember what the O, the H, and the A stand for?
No.
Oh, okay. O is for opposite side, H is for hypotenuse. A is for the adjacent side. So you start at the angle the problem is about, and you go through the inside of the triangle, and this is your good. Then you start at your 90 and you go through, and this is your hypotenuse. And then this is your adjacent.
Yeah.
Okay. So they have a label on this and a label on that.
A.
Good. So that is the TOA, right?
Yeah.
So we have to do tangent. Tangent is O is 7 and A is 5.
Yeah.
So that is that one, right?
Yeah.
All right, we finished. And it's 6:58, so it's time for us to stop. So I'm going to press stop. But I just want to say again, the way you do these with the trig, you have to remember, you do the way you choose which SOHCAHTOA to do, which one of these 3 to do, is you start by labeling your triangle O, H, A, and then you have to look for the labeled side lengths.
Yeah.
And since the O and the A had the labels, that was why we picked tangent, because it's the only one that uses O and A.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and press stop. Okay, so I've got my reading glasses. So here's the first question. To make a 750-piece jigsaw puzzle more challenging, a puzzle company includes 5 extra pieces in the box, along with the 750 pieces. And those 5 extra pieces do not fit anywhere in the puzzle. If you buy such a puzzle box, break the seal on the box, and immediately select one piece at random, what is the probability that it will be one of the extra pieces? So for probability, do you remember that it's the outcome they're asking about out of the total?
Fine.
Exactly. It'll be 5 out of the total because there's 5 of them. And how many pieces are there all together?
That means me. That me.
No? Are you rereading it?
We don't know.
Yes, you do. It's a 750-piece puzzle. And there are 5 extra pieces.
Yeah.
So how many pieces are in the box?
Fine.
The 750 plus 5 extra pieces.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 5 over.
Fine.
Now, how come none of their answers say that? Do you know? Oh,
Yeah.
they do have it. They do have it. It's D. But it's really strange that they didn't reduce it. But oh well, they didn't. So this is the answer. Okay? You know, they could have reduced it. They could have reduced it by 5 and they would have had 1 out of 151. So it's interesting that they chose not to reduce it, but I don't know why. All right, number 32. What fraction lies exactly halfway between 2/3 and 3/4? So what is going to be the halfway point in the middle there? How do you find a number halfway between? Add and. You add and what? You add and divide by 2. You average. You add and divide by 2.
Yeah.
Just like when we do a midpoint and we stack, add, divide by 2. You add
No.
and divide by 2.
That's what I was saying, but I didn't.
All right, I'm going to open Desmos so we can add it. So we have to do 2/3 plus 3/4 divided by 2.
Oh.
Okay, so they say 0.70, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how to make it back to a fraction is going to be the problem. The graphing calculator is actually better for this. If we used a graphing calculator, it would tell us the right answer. So I can just, I can figure it out pretty quick. So anyway, this decimal 0.7 is close to the answer, but all of the answers they're giving us are fractions, okay? So the thing we need to know is which one of these is close to 0.7. So what could we do since we can't, I don't have a graphing calculator here. Do you have any idea what I could do to match this up with that?
Hey, why don't you Google it,
No, we can't Google it in the middle of ACT, can we?
No.
I can't Google a graphing calculator anyway. I can't. It won't have one that does exactly what I want. It's not the graph part that I need. I need the fraction part. So anyway, there's a quicker way. If we just take 3 divided by 5, it will give us a fraction. I'm sorry, a decimal on decimals.
Yeah.
We can do 5 divided by 6, and it will give us a decimal.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say we
And
can use some number sense with that too, Connor, because 5 6 is not going to be it. You know how I know that? 5 6 is almost 1, right? It's close to 1. So 5 6 would be something like 0.8 something or closer to 0.9. So it's not going to be this one. And 7/12 is a little bit more than half, right? 6/12 is half. So we could try this one, but it still doesn't look great. 9/16 is a tiny bit more than a half. 17 out of 24 and 3 out of 5, to me, those both look pretty good. So I'm going to start with the 17/4, okay? So I'm going to go back to Desmos now, and I'm just going to choose them until we find one that looks right. What did you say? Oh, okay. Well, you knew what I meant. So are you looking at it?
Yeah.
That's the one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the right answer. Okay. So all I was using there was I was using number sense. Here's another number sense thing we could have done. We could have thought about just these two numbers because this number is 0.75 and this number 2/3 is like 0.666666, right? So kind of like 0.67. So are you with me on that?
Yeah.
So you knew it had to be a decimal halfway between these things. And then you could look at all the other numbers here. Do you know 3/5 is like 6/10? 3/5 is 6/10. So that would be 0.6. So that one doesn't make any sense either, you know? So if you use your number sense, you can figure out like which ones to eliminate so that you don't have to try all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the next question. We're on question number 33. There's a total of 60 questions.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It's going to take us a while. Okay, here we go. Gianna, there you go. Gianna is converting a 12 by 15-foot room in her house to a craft room. Gianna will install tile herself, but will have CC Installations build and sell the cabinets. The scale drawing shown below displays the location of the cabinets in the craft room. 0.25 inch represents 2 feet. Okay, so then it gives you the drawing. Okay, so I'm going to write the last thing they just said was 0.25 inches equals 2 feet. All right. The next thing it says is cabinets will be installed along one of the 12-foot walls from floor to ceiling. And 4 cabinets that are each 3 feet tall will be installed in the middle of the room. These are the only cabinets that will be installed, and each of them will be 2 feet wide and 2 feet deep. CC Installations has given Gianna an estimate of $2,150 for building and installing the cabinets. So this is a lot of information they're giving you. Now they're going to give you 3 problems in a row that all go with this. The first one says, a 15-foot wall is how many inches long in the drawing? So you remember earlier it was 0.25 inches equals 2 feet. So if it's 15 feet, what math do you think I should do?
Multiply.
Multiply what?
On. On.
0.25 times 2?
No.
0.25 times the 15?
Yeah.
Well, you can't exactly do that because that's what you would do if it was 0.25 for every 1 foot.
Oh.
And then you can go, but it's not. It's 0.25 for every 2 feet. So you need to know how many times 2 feet fits into 15, don't you?
Yeah.
So we need to do 15 divided by 2. That's 7.5. So there's 7.5 of these 2-foot parts.
Yeah. Then multiply that 7.5
times 0.25. You got it, man. So that's going to give us, well, let me ask you this. Because you can go faster if you have your number sense cap on, okay? If you're wearing your number sense really strong. Isn't 7.5 close to 8?
Yeah.
And isn't 0.25 doing 1/4? So times by 1/4 is going to basically divide it by 4. So what is 8 divided by 4? 2. So it's not exactly 2, it's close to 2. So that eliminates the 3 and this and this. So let's go do the math you told me about, but I think I already know. I think it's this.
Yeah.
Because if we do 1.5 times 4, we will get 6. We will not get 7.5. Yeah, so that's the answer. I don't even need to go try. I know that's right. Gianna will install tile on the portion of the floor that will not be covered by cabinets. So that means the cabinets are going to sit on the floor and the tile is going to go all the way up to that spot, okay? But not where the cabinets are. What is the area in square feet of the portion of the floor that will not be covered by cabinets? So it's the part that's going to get tile is what they're asking, okay? So let's go back to the drawing. So all of the parts that don't have cabinets are getting tile. So all of this, right? That's all getting tile. And they want to know what's the area in square feet.
We gotta do the Parabola.
We've got to do the what?
Parabola. A equals.
Oh, the area formula. I understand. I'm sorry. A equals LW. Okay. So
Yeah.
so this side is how long?
Wow.
Yeah, good job. This side is how long? It's not quite 15 though, because how wide are the cabinets? Good. So 15 minus 2, right? So that's 13. So for our length times width, we're going to do 13 times 12. Okay. So 13 times 12 is 156.
Can you put the A?
Yeah. So now, what do I need to do? Because it's not that whole thing. What do I have to do about this?
Mine.
Good. So tell me what to minus. How do don't I have to go read somewhere because they don't have a label? Let's go back and read. It's in this paragraph somewhere. Cabinets will be installed along one of the 12-foot walls from floor to ceiling, and 4 cabinets that are each 3 feet tall will be installed in the middle of the room. These are the only cabinets that will be installed, blah, 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 blah. They will be 2 feet wide and 2 feet deep. So 4 cabinets in the middle of the room that are 2 feet wide and 2 feet deep. So they're saying it's like this. I think that's what, like that. So this is a 2, and this is a 2, and this is a 2, and this is a 2. Okay?
Yeah.
So then what is this whole length and this whole width? 4 and 4. So to get that area, I have to do another A equals L times W and do 4 times 4. Yes. And then I subtract that, right?
Yeah.
So 156 up here minus 16. And that answer is which one? A, B, C, D, or E? Good. Number 35. This is the last question with this word problem. CC Installations estimate. You know, an estimate is the price they give you before they do the work. They call it an estimate because they don't know exactly what it will cost. So they start by giving you an estimate. CC Installations estimate consists of a $650 charge for labor plus a fixed charge per cabinet. I'm already thinking that this is like y equals mx plus b.
Yeah.
This would be your b, and then your m would be the fixed charge per cabinet. And it would depend on how many cabinets. The labor and charge per cabinet remain the same for any number of cabinets built and installed. CC Installations would give Gianna what estimate if the craft room were to have twice as many cabinets as Gianna is planning to have. Say again. Okay. So they already gave her an estimate, and it was way up at the top somewhere. We have to go back and read it. It was $2,150. Okay. And remember, they said it's a set price for each cabinet. So how many cabinets is she getting right now with this estimate? 4 in the center. Oops, 4 here. Then how many of the 2-foot cabinets are on a 12-foot wall? How many 2-foots are going to fit in there? Oh, I drew too many lines. Don't count my lines. Don't you just have to do 12 divided by 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have 6 cabinets along this wall, and you have 4 cabinets inside of here. So she's getting 10 cabinets. Okay, so we come back down to this problem, and we already know how many cabinets is 10. So we don't know the M, but we do know the total is, the estimated total is $2,150. So I'm going to go 2,150 equals the M times 10 plus the fixed price right there, 650.
Yeah.
Now I have to solve this. So to isolate the M, what do I have to do?
more of the food.
The 650?
Yeah,
Good. So when I do 2150 minus 650, I have 1500 equals m times 10.
no way.
Good. So then I get m equals 150. All right. Now it says, what would it be if she installs twice as many cabinets?
Nine. More of one. Nine.
So go 150 times 20, right?
Yeah.
So we'll take our equation, y equals 150x plus 650, and we'll put in a 20 for x. So 150 times 20 is 3,000 plus 650. So which answer is that? Right there.
Yeah, I could see no way.
I know it's so tiny on this page. I don't know when we take this, I don't know if you're going to have paper. I don't know how it will be. No one has talked to me about it, so I don't know. All right, number 36. Which of the following is the graph of the region 1 is less than x plus y is less than 2 in the standard xy coordinate plane? Okay, so first of all, when you look at all of the graphs, they all have dotted lines because of the less than symbols. And then 3 of them have positive slopes, those 3 there. And then these 2 have negative slopes. So when we look at this, I don't know if you remember how to do this kind of problem, Connor, but it's like this. This is what you call a compound inequality. Do you remember this now? Where you make it into 2 problems?
Yeah.
So that's going to be, one of them is 1 is less than x plus y. So let's do that one first. 1 is less than x plus y. And if you want to graph a line, we usually isolate the y. So then we'll go minus x. 1 minus x is less than y. But then that is backwards because we want y first. So now we're going to flip this around and say y is greater than x minus 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to find, so that means your slope is positive 1 and your y-intercept is negative 1.
Yeah.
So we're going to go look. I'm going to zoom you back just a tiny bit. We're going to try and look at all of them, and we have to find one that has a slope of positive 1. Well, if it has a positive slope, then these 2 are out. And it has to have a y-intercept of negative 1. So this has a y-intercept of negative 1. This does not. And this does.
Yeah.
So it's between these 2. Now we have to solve the red one that I circled. So now we have to do x plus y is less than 2. So I'm going to come over here where there's a little bit of space. X plus y is less than 2. So again, we're going to isolate y. We're going to minus x on both sides. Y is less than negative x plus 2.
Yeah.
So what's the y-intercept? Good. And the slope is negative 1.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. How can that be right? Greater than x minus 1. Oh, I messed up. Shoot. I messed up earlier, Connor. Look, right here. This says 1 minus x, not x minus 1. So when I rewrite this, this should be 1 minus x. What is the y-intercept? No. Remember, it's like mx plus b, right? So if I put this in the really correct order, it would be negative x plus 1. You have to still shuffle things around a little bit. 1 minus x means you have a negative x and a positive 1. So I scratched out the right answer, I think, because it does have a negative 1 slope and a positive 1 y-intercept. So the right answer is over here where I scratched out. So it is this one, because that one has a positive 1 y-intercept and a negative slope. This other line doesn't even have that. This is the answer.
Do you plan they will let me use a whiteboard?
I don't know, Connor. Possibly. How would you use a whiteboard? Do you mean for the person working with you to use a whiteboard?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know, but I can ask.
Because I can see that the whiteboard.
I understand. Okay, next question. What is the difference? Oops, I went too far. Hold on. What is the difference between the mean and median of the set? Hold on, my camera's moving. Okay. Of the set 3, 8, 10, 15. The difference between the mean and the median. Remind me how to get a mean.
We got
Good. So we're going to go 3 plus 8 is 11, plus 10 is 21, plus 15 is 31 and 5. That's 36 altogether. What am I going to do now?
the one.
By how many? Not 2. You have to divide by how many is in the list. By 4. So then that gives you 9. So the mean is 9. Do you remember how to find a median?
No.
A median is the number in the middle of a list, and the list has to be in order least to greatest. And then that's when you do the crossing off. So you cross off the smallest number, then the biggest number, then the smallest number, then the big. So the problem is they have 2 numbers in the middle. It has to be between these 2. So what number is in between 8 and 10?
9.
Okay, so 9 is the median. They want the difference between the mean and the median. What's going to happen if you subtract those?
0.
Good. Number 38. Which of the following? What?
We got only more.
Yeah, 22. Which of the following describes a true relationship between the functions f of x equals x minus 3 squared plus 2? Before I say anything else, what kind of function is it if it has an exponent of 2? Do you remember? Quadratic. This is a vertex form for a quadratic. Okay, so which of the following describes the relationship between this one and 1/2 x plus 1 graphed below in the standard xy coordinate plane? So there they are. There's your quadratic curve, and there's their line. Okay? All right. Now, here's what they're saying in their answers. They have that they're equal, less than, greater than, or inverse. It's not going to be inverse because inverse is when two things are opposites, and these are not opposites. They're just not alike at all.
No.
So, here's one thing that's true. They have the same values at the intersection points.
Yeah.
So this part where it's saying equals, f of x equals g of x for exactly two values of x is true. And the rest of them aren't true because they're saying f of x is less than or f of x is greater than g of x for every x. And that's not true because from here to that point, this function is lower and that function is higher. But then once they intersect, the parabola goes below and it's lower. And the line is higher. And then after they intersect again, the line is lower and the parabola is higher. So it's like they keep switching places, which one is greater on either side of these intersection points, right? So that's why you can't pick the less than greater than ones. You have to pick this one that says it's equal for exactly two values of x.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. Trapezoid ABCD is graphed in the standard XY coordinate plane below. What is the slope of segment CD? So do you remember how to find the slope when you know only the coordinates?
No.
You can make a table from the points. 9, 4, 12, 1. You can just make a table. How do you get slope when there's a table? You have to, no, you don't cross multiply. You do change in y over change in x.
Yeah.
So we do 1 minus 4 over 12 minus 9.
Yeah.
So what's 1 minus 4? -3. Good. And then 12 minus 9 is +3. So what's the slope? -3 over +3.
-1.
Yep. Next question. When ABCD is reflected over the y-axis to be A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime, that just means to make a new one. What are the coordinates of D prime, which means the new D after it's reflected? Okay, so let's go look at the graph again. They want us to reflect it over the y-axis and tell them the new coordinates of point D after the reflection. Here's the graph. Oops, I went too far. So here's the old point D. Here's your y-axis. When something gets reflected, it has to be the same distance, but on the opposite side. So D is going to come from this side way over to here. So how far is D from the axis? Which number tells you the side-to-side distance from the origin?
No.
Your x coordinate tells you side to side. Your x is your horizontal.
Yeah.
So then it's just going to be, instead of being 12 units on this side, it's going to be 12 over here, right?
Yeah.
So when it goes over this way, what do you have to do to that coordinate?
Negative.
Good. So it'll be a negative 12. And it'll have the same y because it'll be the same height, right? It'll be the same height as the old point. It'll just be the opposite direction. Okay, so here it is. Negative 12, 1.
Yeah.
Okay, number 41. Which of the following vertical lines cuts ABCD into two trapezoids with equal areas? A vertical line that can cut it into two trapezoids with equal areas. Interesting. All right. That is really a tough question. So let me put they've got 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. But we're going to try and put all of those on here, okay? So the first one they're saying is 2.5. 2.5 would be right here. So it's not that one. That doesn't, it's not going to split it in half if we put a line there. That's ridiculous.
No.
The next one is 3.5. So that one, here, 3.5 is going to be like right there. So it's still not good. So then they say 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. So,
No.
I'm trying to figure out a good way to help you understand what to do because there's not a great way to tell you. There's no grid on the graph. And we're not allowed to just make our own graph on graph paper. We're not allowed to have graph paper, I don't think. So let's just keep thinking. So if we did 4.5, it would be like here. And then if we do 5.5, it would be here. And then if we do 6.5, it would be here. So it seems like 6.5 is probably the best answer, don't you think?
Yeah.
So let's just put that one down. Sometimes you just have to guess with what seems like the best answer because it's meant to be a timed test for most people. And you don't want to try and work every problem completely, or it might take you 20 minutes to do one problem. Sometimes you just have to look at it and think, I don't have the tools I want to help me answer the question.
How many hours do I get?
I don't know, Connor. I think that you get, I don't know. I have no idea. Like I said, nobody has met with me, so I don't know. But what I'm trying to tell you is that if you were to try and do this problem completely, I think you would struggle and spend a long time on it and get very frustrated and be very tired. And I don't think it's a good idea. So I think the better thing to do is see, because even me drawing those lines on there, that's me doing the thinking about where to put the line. Do you think you would have said to me, draw lines on the graph, put a line at this, put a line at that, put a line at that? That's probably what you would have to do is tell me to draw lines on it. And then you would have to decide which one looks the best, you know?
Yeah. And that wouldn't be my fault.
What?
And that wouldn't be my fault.
No, it wouldn't be your fault at all. They just write this test for everyone to do, and they make some of the questions very hard on purpose. It's on purpose.
I could get help on it, but
Yeah, it's okay. All right, let's do number 42. Given f of x equals x minus 1 over x and g of x equals 1 over x, what is f of g of 1/2? We learned this in Algebra 2 this year. To do f of g of x, you have to put g of x into the f function.
Yeah.
So you have to do f of 1 over x.
Yeah.
Okay? And the thing is, it's hard to do with just variables, but they gave us a number to do it with. They gave us 1/2. So we're going to go ahead and try to start with, we're going to back this whole process up. We're going to find out g of 1/2 first on the inside here. So g of 1/2 equals, the g function does 1 over it. So we have to go 1 over 1/2. Okay?
Yeah.
So let me share my Desmos tab.
When I do the Conjugate, I borrow a calculator.
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to say, Connor. All I can do is just wait and find out what the way it works is. They don't just, I don't know how to explain it to you. They're not going to say, they're not going to tell me that I get to decide. They have accommodations that they have rules about. So I don't know what they will tell me. Okay? I don't even know if it will be me. So I need you to stop worrying so much. You just need to be patient, okay? All right, so we just found out that g of 1/2 is this number. So that's the number 2. So then f of that is going to be f of 2. And this is what the f function says. X minus 1 over x. So we're going to go and put 2 minus 1 over 2. We're replacing the x's in that equation up there with 2's. So which answer is the same thing as 2 minus 1/2?
You make it bigger.
Oh, goodness, you're on Desmos. Hold on. There you go. So here's the x minus 1 over x that I'm putting in 2 for. And I'm going 2 minus 1 over 2. So 2 minus 1/2 is which one of these answers?
Negative.
No, it's not.
No.
What is 1 minus 1/2?
0.
No, 1 minus 1/2. What is 1 minus 1/2? You're struggling with your fractions? I'll just go back to Desmos then. If you don't know, I thought you knew the fractions really well. Let's go back to Desmos. So we're going to go 2 minus 1/2.
Oh.
There you go. It says 1.5. Do you understand why that is? Because 1/2 is like 0.5. So 2 minus 0.5 is 1.5. So it's not a negative number, and it's not 0. So the only answer that makes sense is right there. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because 3/2 is 1.5. 1.5. All right, next question. Number 43. 43. A formula to estimate the monthly payment P dollars on a short-term loan is P equals 1/2 ARY plus A over 12Y.
they always do that, you know.
Can we do this what?
I don't remember that because
You're not supposed to, Connor. They're giving you an equation that they know you have never seen. They're doing that because they want to see what you will do. Are you okay? Try to slow down and take a deep breath and cough.
yeah.
Okay. So they're doing that on purpose. They know you've never seen the formula. And I know that seems mean, but they're trying to see if you can understand how to use any formula is to replace the letters with the numbers. Okay. So then it explains what all the letters mean. $A is the amount of time of the loan. R is the annual interest rate as a decimal. Y is the years. And when A is multiplied by 2, what is the effect on P, which is the whole thing over here? So basically what they're saying is, if you go in and double the A, how will it change the final answer? So that's not very nice of them, is it? What if you do something like this? It's the oldest trick in the book. If they don't give you numbers, you make your own numbers. If they want us to find out what happens when A is doubled, then we can start and work out the problem with an A and an R and a Y that we choose ourselves. And then we can double it. Okay? Well, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to write the formula a lot bigger though. So 1/2 ARY plus A all over 12Y.
Yeah.
So let's just pick some numbers. If A is 1 and R is, they said that R is the interest rate and it has to be a decimal. So I'm going to go like point. Okay, 0.5. And then Y is the number of years. So let's go with Y equals, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. 10. We'll go 10. Okay. So the first time we do it, we're going to do with that. Then they want to know what's going to happen if A gets multiplied by 2. So the second time we do it, we're going to change the A to what number? Good. You got the idea. So we're going to put 1/2 times 1 times the R is 0.5 times the Y is 10 plus the A is 1 all over 12 times the Y, which is 10. So when I work that, I'll go do that on Desmos really quick. Well, actually, I can do that in my head. 1/2 of 1 is 1/2. And then you got times another half, so that's 0.25 times 10. So that's 2.5 plus 1 is 3.5 over 120. Okay. Now we're going to redo the whole thing, but we're going to change the numbers that are 1s for A to 2s. So we're going to redo it, and it's going to be 1/2 times 2 times 0.5 times 10 plus 2 all over 12 times 10.
Yeah.
So 1/2 of 2 is 1. 1 times 0.5 is 0.5. 0.5 times 10 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. So that's going to now be 7 over 120. So what did it do to it? It went from 3.5 to 7.
No more.
Exactly, it doubled it. So now our answer is P is multiplied by 2. Oops, I'm sorry. There you go. Now, here's how we would know this, Connor. This whole expression, do you see how it's all kind of linear stuff? It doesn't have any exponents in it, right? So all that stuff looks very linear. So if you double something that's linear, it's going to double it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, let's keep on going. You ready for the next one? The points E at 6, 4 and F at 14, 12 lie in the standard XY coordinate plane shown below. Let's go look at them real quick. There they are, E and F. Point D lies on EF between E and F, such that the length of EF is 4 times the length of DE. EF is 4 times, okay, so D lies in here somewhere, so that EF is 4 times longer than DE, it says, okay? So DE is going to be like from here to wherever D is. This is 1/4 of the whole thing from here to here.
Yeah.
So let's just think about numbers that make sense, because here's the deal. You just have to figure out what is 1/4 of the way from 6 to 14, because that's from X to X. Check it out. From 6 to 14, what is 1/4 of that distance? So how far apart are 14 and 6? You can go 14 minus 6, which is 8. And then divide that by 4 to get 1/4 of it, which is 2. So that means it has to be 2 units over from here. So the X, instead of being 6, the X will have to be 8. And we can do the exact same thing with the Y's. The Y's are going from, this Y is 4 and this Y is 12.
Oh my God.
That's, oops, that's also 8, and 8 divided by 4 is also 2. So it has to be 2 more than 4, so it is 6. So the right answer is go. So it seemed like a really tough question, but it's not that bad when you think about it. They just made it very difficult by not giving you a grid, right?
What?
Because you couldn't count any squares. So what you could do because I can't, even if I am the person, I don't know if I will be the person, but if I am the person, I can't tell you to do those things for math, you know? I can't tell you to subtract and divide by 4. You would have to think of it yourself. But you could just look at the coordinates they gave you. And in your mind, you can think to yourself whether or not they make sense.
That,
You know?
that's why I'm making you recording that way. I can watch it.
Good. Good. I understand what you mean. So I do want to talk about which ones here don't make any sense at all. The 1210 doesn't make any sense because it's way too far over. 1210 is almost all the way over here. But you know what I think they did with this one? I think that this one is 1/4 from the F instead of being 1/4 from the E. So I think they did that one to be tricky. I think they did that one to catch people that were putting D on the wrong end. You see what I mean? Because if you put the point right here, then it's 1/4 of the total, but it's on the wrong side because they said it has to be the length of DE. So that puts it down here.
Yeah.
The E is down here. So there's a part of this question that you have to read very carefully. All right, so we're on number 45. So we've been working for about an hour and we've done about 15 questions. So we're really at that same pace of 15 questions per hour. Given that A times this equals that for some real number A, what is X plus Z? Okay, let's find X. X is here. Z is here. So we have to find out what those two numbers are. So you have never done this kind of math. This is called a matrix, and it's really just like a table of numbers, but it's not an XY table. It's just like a table. So if they're saying A times this, they mean A is distributed times every single number in the table, okay? So they're saying A times 2 is X. Oops, I meant to put X. And then they're saying A times 4 is Z. Just kidding. I meant, no, that was right. A times 4, I'm sorry. So then X plus Z is just going to add these two things, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that would have to be 6A.
Yeah.
So now how are we supposed to figure it out? Because look, they gave us just numbers. So here's the trick. Don't you have a problem that you can set up inside of here that you can find the exact answer to?
Yeah.
Do one of the ones that doesn't have a variable. The only one that doesn't have a variable is right there.
Yeah.
So A times 6 is 27. So how can I solve for A?
Multiply.
Did you say multiply?
The Y.
Yeah. I was hoping that's what you meant. Okay. So then we have 27 divided by 6 is 4.5. So if A is 4.5, and we need to find out what 6A is. Yeah, I actually already know the answer. It's 27. Because we just did 27 divided by 6 is 4.5. So I know if I go times 6 again, I'm going to get back to 27. Right?
G.
Yep. Okay, number 46. A container is 1/8 full of water. After 10 cups of water are added, the container is 3/4 full. What is the volume of the container in cups? Goodness, this is a good question.
God, I don't know. Wow.
We've got to do what? The volume formula?
We fly high.
We don't need the volume formula because we don't know the dimensions of it. They just need to know, when they say they want the volume, they mean what is the total. So here's kind of the deal. You don't know here's what you can do is you can write an equation for the total. You can say 1/8 plus 10. So it's 1/8 of you don't know the volume, okay? So I'm going to go 1/8 of the volume by doing V for volume. 1/8 of the volume plus 10 cups of water makes it equal to 3/4 of the total volume. That's how you could do it.
Yeah.
So now, do you remember you learned how to do equations like this in Algebra 2? If you want to get rid of denominators, what do? You multiply times the least common multiple. What's the least common multiple for 8 and 4 that they both divide to? Huh?
No.
They both divide into 8. 4 divides into 8 and 8 divides into 8. So if we multiply everything times 8, then all of the denominators will be gone.
Yeah.
So 8 times 1/8 is 1V. 8 times 10 is 80. And then 3/4 of 8 is going to give us 6. We would probably do that on a calculator, but I'm doing it in my head. And then we get that. Now what?
No.
Do what to 6V? Minus it. Okay. If I do that, I'm going to have everything on the same side, and I'm going to have a 0 over here.
No.
What I really want to do is minus the 1V. That way I'll have all numbers on one side and all variables on the other side. Good. Remember, if it's linear, you want to get variables on one side and numbers on the other. When it's quadratic, that's when you want everything on one side.
Yeah.
This answer is 16. Yep. Okay, so I need to take a very quick break and go blow my nose, Connor. Do you need to get a drink or something? This is going to make the video very, very long if we keep going right now. So I'm going to press stop on the recording. That way it can make 2 separate videos because it takes it a very long time to process when it's a long video. Okay. I don't know, but I'm going to just stop the recording for a moment. You're welcome, sweetheart. Okay, here we go. We're on number 47. So really, it should take us a little bit less than an hour this time. We have about 14 questions. Only 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students attend Washington High School. The ratio of 10th graders to the school's total student population. Ooh, let's reread that sentence. The ratio of 10th graders to the school's total student population. So 10th graders to the total is 86 to 255. And the ratio of 11th graders to the school's total is 18 to 51.
Yeah.
So that means they must have reduced this other ratio because they should have the same total. You see what I mean? 255 there and 51 there.
Yeah.
Okay. If one student is chosen at random from the entire school, which grade is that student most likely to be in? Goodness. Okay. So, first of all, if we could reduce, can you see that 255 and 51, we have to make them have the same denominator? to compare them.
Yeah.
So 866 to 255 for the 10th graders. And then for the 11th, if I want to make two numbers have the same denominator, I can figure out, does 51 to divide into 255? So let's go to Desmos and look. Does 51 divide into 255? Let's see. I already know the answer, but I want you to see. So 255 divided by 51 equals, wait, I hit the wrong button. I hit minus. I'm struggling. Oh my goodness. There you go. There's the answer, 5. Okay. So they've reduced it by 5. All right. So if I want to make them have the same denominator, then I have to take that 18 to 51 fraction and multiply both parts by 5, like a special 1,
Yeah.
So then it will have a 255 denominator, and 18 times 5 is 90. You would have to multiply the numerator back by 5. So that means there's more 11th graders than there are 10th graders. Now, it says that the school has 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Okay?
Yeah.
It told us the 10th and the 11th totals. So how do we figure out the 12th? Out of 255.
I don't know.
So when we make these fractions, we're saying that grade out of the total and that grade out of the total. So we're missing this grade out of the total, but these are all of the grades. So don't they all have to add up to the total?
Yeah.
So let's do 86 and 90 together and then subtract it from the total.
Yeah.
So I'll take you back to Desmos. 86 plus 90 is 176. The total is 255 minus 176 is 79. So now we know that the 12th grade is 79 out of 255. Okay. Let's go back and read their question again. If one student is chosen at random, which grade is that student most likely to be in? Can you try and do a deep breath and cough it up, buddy? That was a good one. Try do that again. Good job. Do you feel a little bit better?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So if we want to know which one has the highest probability, it's the one that there's the most, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the 11th grade. That was a tough question, but we figured it out. So let's talk about it one more time. They gave us the first two numbers they gave us was 86 over 255 and then 18 over 51. And we had to change the 18 over 51 to have the same denominator so that we could compare them. And then we had to figure out, using the total of 255, we had to figure out how many of them were 12th grade by adding and subtracting from the total.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do number 48. Number 48 is just straight computation. There's no words to read. So it says 4 over the square root of 2 plus 2 over the square root of 3 equals. So if you're getting a least common denominator, aren't you supposed to look for something they both can divide into?
Yeah.
So they both would divide into 6, right? The square root of 6.
Yeah.
2 and 3 divide into the square root of, so we're going to do this. We're going to make square root of 6 be our least common denominator. So that means we're going to have to multiply this one times a special one of whatever will make it 6. So 2 times what is 6? 3. So we're going to go times square root of 3 here and square root of 3 here.
What kind of free?
Then for the other number, square root of 3 times what is square root of 6? Good. So we're going to go square root of 2 over square root of 2. So now they have the same denominator. Now we're going to combine our numerators and keep the denominator. So that gives us 6 squared. Oh, I'm writing the wrong number up here. No, I'm not. Just kidding. I'm saying the wrong things. This is a square root of 3, and this is a square root of 2. They're not like terms. So then you just put them in the same denominator without combining. Like that. Okay? They're just all together on one line, but they can't combine. All right. So that matches G.
Yeah.
All right. Number 49. The shaded region in the graph below represents the solution set. So what's really strange is this didn't shade when I printed it. I'm going to go really quickly and open the file and see if I can, let me see if, okay. I'm going to try and open up my files and see if I can view it. Because I printed this just the other night. I think it's still in here where I can.
But you're not gonna reprint.
No, I'm just going to put it on my screen and see if the shading shows up on my screen. Oh, goodness, it's not. It's on my flash drive, but my flash drive is not plugged in right now. Oh, God.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm going to, you know what? We'll skip this one for a minute, but we'll think about it a tiny bit. I do want to explain a tiny bit to you. This circles equation is something you did not learn because we didn't learn about it last year in geometry. So the way this is set up is, do you remember seeing the vertex form of a parabola? Let me talk about that for just one moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so you remember, and this happens with the square root function too. You remember that when it's a parabola, it's like this with the H and the K. And the H and the K make the center of the vertex point in the parabola.
Yeah.
And then when it's a square root function, it looks very similar, and the H, K is the reference point where it starts from. So with a circle, this is your H and this is your K, and that forms the center point for the circle. So that means this circle is centered at 1, 2.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you have to change the signs on the thing in the parentheses. So that means this point right here in the center of this circle is at 1, 2. And then this part right here, that's the radius squared. So what's the square root of 9? 3. So 3 squared is 9. So 3 is the radius. So this is 3 right here. Okay?
Yeah.
And then this line over here is the line y equals negative x plus 2. All right?
Yeah.
So they want to know, they basically have shaded part of it, and they want us to say which one it is and see how they're all inequalities. So you would have to know where it was shaded to guess what the right answer is. So why don't we just make one up and answer it that way? So let's say that this is the part that is shaded. So if it were that part, then it has to be inside of the circle. So you have to understand, first of all, that this whole equation is plotting all of the points on the edge of the circle.
Yeah.
So to be shaded inside, it has to be a less than.
Yeah.
If it was shaded outside of the circle, it would be a greater than. Because it would be everything that has a radius bigger than 3. So it has to go outside. But if you say less than, it's everything that has a radius smaller than 3. All right. And then to be below that line, it has to be less than that line, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So they must both be less thans. It can't be less than or equals. It has to be just less because of the dotted. So let's find both of them being less. Looks like that is A. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the good thing is we got to talk about circles. So I just want to put you on that for a second and let you look at it. So the circle formula is set up. The opposite of this and the opposite of that make the center point. And then the square root of that number makes the radius.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next question. We're on number 50. We have 11 more questions.
No.
No, 11, because 50 through 59 is 10. We haven't done 50 yet. If you start with 51, it's 10, but we're starting at 50.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky, huh? Okay, you can find the volume of an irregularly shaped solid object by completely submerging it in water and calculating the volume of the water the object displaces. We call this displacement. You did this in science, didn't you? Did they talk about it? Yeah, they talk about this in science every year, in physical science. So what you do is you have this goofy shaped thing like a rock, and you can't measure it because it's got goofy dimensions. So you put it in the water and you measure the height of the water before it and the height of the water after, and then you find the two volumes and you subtract, right? So that's what they're talking about. You completely submerge a solid object in a rectangular tank that has a base of 40 centimeters by 30 centimeters and is filled with water to a depth of 20 centimeters. The object sinks to the bottom and the water level goes up 0.25 centimeters. What is the volume of the object? So that means the displacement was this much. This is how much water got displaced. So we have to figure out what's the volume of did it say a cylinder or did it say, it says a rectangular. Okay. So it's kind of like this shape, a rectangular solid tank, kind of like a fish tank. So let's just draw that really, oops, I went too far. We'll draw that really quick. Okay, so they're saying that the base is, hold on, I messed up, I didn't finish. The base is 40 by 30. The base is 40 by 30. And then it says that the water is already 20 centimeters deep, but then the amount of water that's displaced is this. So we don't really care how much water was already in it. All we care is how much got displaced, which they told us. So if we can do 30 by 40 by 0.25 high, we'll get the answer. So you just need to do volume equals length times width times height.
Yeah.
So we'll multiply all three of those numbers together. Let's go to decimal. 30 by 40 by 0.25. I think the answer is going to be 300, but let's double check. Okay. 30 times 40 times 0.25. There you go, 300. You know what I did in my head? I did 40 times 0.25 because 0.25 is 1/4 and 1/4 of 40 is 10. I know you can do that in your head, right? And then 10 times 30, 10 times 30 is 300.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's our answer. Yep. First one. Number 51. Now we have 10 left. If x to y is 5 to 2. Do you see this? It says x dot dot y. That means the ratio of x to y is 5 to 2. So they're basically saying this. Right?
Yeah.
And then the ratio of y to z is 3 over 2. Yeah. What is the ratio of x to z? Okay, nice.
I know.
This is so tricky. I think what you would have to do is isolate the x in this one to get an expression that means the same thing as x.
Yeah.
And then put it here. And then isolate the z from that one. Oops, I should have used a different color. Isolate that z and put the answer there. And then try to work it out. So to isolate this x, couldn't I, since it's x divided by y, couldn't I go times y and times y? So that would be x equals 5/2 y. So that'll be the x equation. And then for the y equation, I'm sorry, the z equation is trickier because it's in the denominator. So what if we do a cross product with this one and we go this times this equals that times that. So then we'll have 3z equals 2y. And remember, we're trying to get z by itself. Wait, this is orange. We're still trying to get this by itself. So we have to divide by 3 now. Okay. So now we have an expression for the z is this. So x over z would have to be this x expression, 5 halves y, divided by this z expression, 2/3. So we have to find out what 5 halves divided by 2/3 is. I think it's Desmos time. Remember to calm down and deep breath and cough it up.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay, I'm going to go parentheses 5 divided by 2. Divided by 2/3. There we go. It says 3.75.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3.75, and then look what they gave us. So these are all still written as ratios. So this is like the whole 3 to 1 is like 3, because that's like 3 over 1. Then they have 3/5. Then they have 5/3. Then they have 8/4. Then they have 15/4. So let's cross off ones that don't make any sense. Wasn't it 3.75?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not 3. So the first one has to go. Now, when they say 3/5, that's less than 1. Because 5/5 is 1, right?
Yeah.
So it's not B. When they say 5/3, 5/3 is 1 2/3, right?
Yeah.
So it's not even 2. 6/3 would be 2. So this is less than 2. So this has to go 8 over 4. What's 8 divided by 4? 2. So it's not that one. So we already know this is the answer, but we're going to check it on Desmos. We're going to see if 15 divided by 4 is 3.75. So let me share that tab back to you.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the right answer.
Yeah.
All right, number 52. Which of the following is the solution statement for the inequality shown below? -5 is less than 1 minus 3x is less than 10. So tell me, because we had one sort of like this earlier, what do you have to do when you get multiple parts like that? What do you do to it?
Oh God.
Yeah, we have to split it up.
Yeah. No, man.
Good. So we'll go -5 is less than 1 minus 3x. And we're going to isolate x. So what do I do? No, the negative sign goes to this, right? This is already positive. We have to subtract 1. So that's -6 is less than -3x. Good job, Connor. So that will divide off -3. So that will be 2 is less than x.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that here. But we need to turn, well, we may not need to turn that around. I'll leave it like that for now. That means the same thing as x is greater than 2. So there's 2 ways to write that, and it just depends. Because when you look at their answers, do you see how they have them? They have them combined together. So it depends on which way they want it. So We have to get the other answer to find out. The other one is 1 minus 3x is less than 10. So what should I do with this one? No. The negative belongs to the 3. This is a positive 1, minus 1.
9. No,
Divide, yep. Uh-oh, I just realized something. What do you have to do when you divide by a negative?
negative.
You have to flip your inequality symbol.
Yeah.
So this is x is greater than 3. So the one I did earlier, I forgot to do that. So this should be this way. And the other one should be that way. Oops.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need x is greater than 3 and x is less than 2. So which answer has x is greater than 3? Oh, negative 3. Sorry. Negative 3. X is greater than negative 3 and less than 2.
Eight.
Good job. That's the right answer. So what did we just review that we had forgotten about? We reviewed that you have to flip your inequality symbol whenever you have to divide by a negative. So since these made you divide by negative 3, you needed to flip that the other way.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 53. A formula for the surface area A of the rectangular solid shown below is A equals 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH, where L is length, W is width, and H is height. By doubling each of the dimensions, the surface area will be multiplied by what factor? Well, I think it's going to be a 4.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Wait, no. Yeah, because if you double, okay, so if you double the L and you double the W, you're going times 4 because you're going times 2 here and times 2 there. So it makes that one times 4. And it makes this one times 4 and it makes this, so it makes everything times 4. But anyway, we can work that out. So we can do what we did earlier. We can make up numbers and watch what happens. So let's say that the L is 1 and the W is 2 and the H is 3. Then when we go to work this out, 2LW would be 2 times 1 times 2. And then 2LH would be 2 times 1 times 3. And then 2WH would be 2 times 2 times 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So then that gives you 4 plus 6 plus 4 times 3 is 12. Then you'll have to go through that whole thing again with every single number being doubled.
Yeah.
So we could just look at one of them to see what happens. But anyway, if you go times 2 with the 1 and times 2 with the 2, then this would be a 2 and this would be a 4. So you would have 2 times 2 times 4. 2 times 2 is 4. 4
Yeah.
times 4 is 16.
Yeah.
So this new number would be 16 down here. What if you double all the numbers in the blue one? then you'll have 2 times 2 times 6. So that'll be 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 6 is 24.
Yeah.
What if you double these ones? Then you'll have 2 times 4 times 6. So that'll be 8 times 6, and that'll be 48. So since every single one of them is 4 times bigger, you end up with a total that's 4 times more. So it's multiplied times 4.
Wait. Yeah.
And it's just because you double the length and the width and the height. So when you do the L times the W, it's doubled and doubled. So 2 times 2 is 4. All right, number 54. A dog eats 7 cans of food in 3 days. At this rate, how many cans of food does the dog eat in 3 plus D days? Nice. Okay. So, D days just means they want to know a rate for every single day. They want to know how much he eats every day. So, if it's 7 cans in 3 days, how can we find out how much he eats in 1 day? Here's what we can do. 7 over 3. So this is 7 cans in 3 days equals how much for, you don't know how much, for 1 day. Okay? You got it. So we're going to go 7 times 1 is 7 equals 3x.
The butt.
So basically it's 7/3 in a day. 7/3 of a can every day. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's 7/3 of a can every day. 7/3. Hold on. So that's how much it is every day. And they said in 3 plus D days. So in the 3 days, he already ate 7, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you adding 7/3 to? The amount that he already ate was how much? Not 3. He already ate 7. Yeah. So you have to do the 7 plus 7/3 D.
Yeah.
So which one do you want? Okay, yeah, you got it. So here's the thing, Connor. We could have guessed on this problem. If we read carefully, we know we have to start with the amount that he already ate, which was the 7 cans, right?
Yeah.
So we could have said, this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't, because they all start with 7/3, not with 7. And then you can just look at it and go, okay, no, it's this one or this one, right?
Okay. How many more?
We've got 6 more. Number 55. Ooh, where's the top? Kelly asked 120 students questions about skiing. The results of the poll are shown in the table below. Here are the questions. Have you skied either cross country or downhill? Yes, no. If you answered yes, did you ski downhill? Yes, no. If you answered yes to question 1, did you ski cross country? Yes, no. After completing the poll, Kelly wondered how many of the students polled had skied both cross country and downhill. All right, so it's like this. I think you might remember doing this. I'm not sure. It's a Venn diagram. Here's cross country. Here's downhill. And here's both in the middle where they cross over. Okay? So see where it says, have you skied cross country or downhill? And they said yes and no.
Yeah.
Out of 120 people, 55 of them said no, they have not skied either one.
Yeah.
Okay, so 120 minus the 55 is this 65 that said yes, all right? Because 120 minus 55 is 65. This all the people answered everything. So the 65 is the total of all the people across this whole thing of cross country and downhill is going to add up to 65, okay? So then here's the people who said that they ski downhill. Of all the people that said, yes, I ski cross country or downhill, I ski some kind of skiing. So these are just the yes, I ski some kind of skiing.
Yeah.
Now the people that said yes, downhill is 28.
Yeah.
And the people that said yes, cross country is 45.
Yeah.
Okay, well, 45 and 28, when you add those up, 45 and 28 is 73, not 65. So how many people do you think are here in this overlapping middle? They must be the people that do both things, right?
Yeah.
So that must be the extra that went above the 65, right?
Yeah.
So how many more is it then? What do I have to do?
No one.
Nope. I can just subtract. Yeah, I can minus it. I can go 73 minus 65, and I can get 8 has to be how many people are in the middle here?
8.
8 people that did both things.
E.
That made it go 8 higher than 65 and all the way up to 73. So there you go. So that's a little bit confusing. So let's look at the information and how we decided again. First, we said all of the people all together that do both kinds is really just 65 people. So if you add up all the yeses for downhill and all the yeses for cross country, you got 73 instead of 65. So that's how you knew that there were too many people. Well, not too many, but some people that do both things. So then we went 73 minus 65 to find out how many people must be doing both things. All right, number 56.
We almost done.
We have 5 more. The square below is divided into 3 rows of equal area. Let's look at it first. It says each row has equal area. So like here's row 1, here's row 2, here's row 3, right? Each row has equal area. Boy, my handwriting looks sloppy there. I'm sorry. Okay. In the top row, the region labeled A has the same area as the region labeled B. A and B. So they're saying the top row is split exactly in half. In the middle row, those 3 regions have equal areas. So this is split in thirds. And in the last row, the 4 regions. So this is in fourths. Okay. What fraction of the square's total area is in a region labeled A? Goodness. All right. So let me ask you something. What part of the whole entire square is yellow in row 1?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
All of it? No, I don't mean just row 1. The whole square. What part of the entire big square is that first row? Each row is 1/3. Okay. So this A in the yellow is half of a third.
Yeah.
I'm going to go times 1/2 to find out exactly how much it is. This one, this A is 1/3 of the total. So I'm going to go 1/3 of this.
Yeah.
And this A, since there's 4 of them here, this A is 1/4. So when I multiply 1/3 times 1/2, what do I get? And then I have 1/9, 1/12. Now they want to know all of that put together. This is a tough fraction question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to go to Desmos and we're going to add 1/6 plus 1/9 plus 1/12.
Yeah.
All right, let me close the other equations. Okay, 1/6 plus 1/9 plus 1/12. And they didn't give us a fraction answer. They said 0.36.
Yeah.
So now we have to go look at the answers and we have to eliminate ones that don't make sense. 0.36 is very close to 1/3. Okay, so we're looking for an answer close to, but bigger than 1/3. So is 1/9 close to 1/3?
No.
No. Is 3/9 close to 1/3? 3/9 equals 1/3. It's not 1/3. It's bigger because it was 0.39.
No.
So we have to cross that off. 6/9, is that close to 1/3?
Yeah.
6/9. No.
No.
6/9 is 2/3, but we can go check all of those. So we'll go back to Desmos and we'll do 6 divided by 9, 13 divided. Is 13 divided by 12 going to be the right answer?
Yeah.
This one right here?
I don't know.
Is that number bigger or smaller than 1?
Maybe.
Then can it be the answer? The answer was 0.39.
Yeah.
So it can't be the answer because this is going to be 1 point something, but we'll go look at all of them just to help you be sure. So 6/9, 13/12, 13/36. I already know which one it is because I'm looking at. It's just because I know my fractions very, very, very well. But since you don't feel as confident as I do, you would just have the person divide them all. So 6 divided by 9 is this number. But the number we had was 0.3 something. 0.39 or 36 or something. So this is not it. Then 13/12 is going to be 1 point something. So that's not it. And then 13/36 has to be it. There it is, 0.36.
Yeah.
That's the one. So you would probably, since you don't feel as confident about your fractions, you would just tell the person, you would say, we've got to divide those answers and get a decimal and make them give you the decimals for all of them. All right, number 57. This got blurry. Let me see if I can get it to refocus. It's a little bit better, I guess. The functions y equals sine x and y equals sine of x plus a plus b for constants a and b are graphed in the standard coordinate plane below.
It
Functions
played
this-
no.
What?
It played no number play.
I'm going to show you the graph after I finish reading the words, okay? The functions have the same maximum value. One of the following statements about the values in A and B is true. Okay, here's the deal, Connor. This math is something you have not learned about that is difficult to learn. So this is one you would have to guess about. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you see something with curves like that, you're just going to have to guess. They call this they call it the sine wave and the cosine wave. So they are not something that you can easily figure out. It's something that people learn in a math that is more than 1 year past what you learned.
Yeah.
So we'll just guess. Do you know what's the best letter to guess? B or C is the best letter to guess when you have to make a guess, okay? Which one do you like better, B or C?
Yeah.
Okay. So number 58.
No.
Oh, you said C?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 58. Which of the following number line graphs shows the solution set to this inequality? This is an absolute value inequality, and we learned how to do this. So I'm going to remind you how to do it. What you do is when you have an absolute value inequality, you have to isolate the bars, which they already are isolated. And then you have to do a plus and a minus of the number that they have. Okay?
Yeah.
Except absolute value makes an answer be positive. An absolute value expression makes an answer positive. And this is a negative number. So how could a positive number be less than a negative number? So the answer is no solution. All right, number 59.
We almost done.
We're almost done. As part of a probability experiment, Elliot is to answer 4 multiple choice questions. For each question, there are 3 possible answers, like A, B, C, of which only one of them is correct. If Elliot randomly and independently answers each question, what is the probability that he will answer the 4 questions correctly? So each of the 4 questions has 3 possible choices, okay? So that means here's question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. You have to multiply probabilities together when you want multiple things to happen. You multiply when you want multiple events. So for each question, if there's only 3 choices, kind of like what I'm showing you in the window right now, then your chances are 1 out of 3. If there's 3 things that can happen, it's 1 out of the total, so 1 out of 3. So you're doing 1 out of 3 for each one of these. So what will we get if we multiply 1 out of 3 times 1 out of 3 times 1 out of 3 times 1 out of 3? So let's go look at their choices and let's use our number sense. Can we get a 27 in the numerator if we're multiplying together a bunch of 1s?
No.
No way. So which ones do I have to cross off?
A, B, C, D.
Good job. So the answer is E, and we don't even have to use the calculator. But 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. It's 1 over 81. That's the right answer. Last question. The sides of an acute triangle. Do you remember what acute means?
Yeah.
It means less than 90 degrees, right?
Yeah.
The sides of an acute triangle measure 14, 18, and 20 respectively.
Yeah.
Which of the following equations, when solved for theta, gives the measure of the smallest angle? Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to make a triangle, and we're going to put the numbers for the sides. The numbers they gave us were 14, 18, 20. Do you remember how to find the smallest angle if you know the smallest side?
Why?
It's opposite. So this is the smallest angle right here because this is the shortest side.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, to work this problem, you have to know how to do some trigonometry that you didn't learn. That's why it all says sine and cosine in it. It's some really difficult.
Yeah. I did bring a number.
I know you did, but you didn't do this kind. But the reason why is because this is not a right triangle. You learned the SOHCAHTOA, which is only for right triangles. This stuff is only for right triangles. But this is not a right triangle. They told us at the beginning of the problem that it was an acute triangle, which means that every angle is less than 90 degrees. So the only two things you can use are, they're called law of sines and law of cosines. I can show you how law of sines works, but we can't use law of sines. So here's how law of sines works. The way law of sines works is you say the sine of an angle, like this one we're trying to solve for, we'll call it angle S or angle, I don't know, angle X. You have to put the sine of the angle over the opposite side length like that and make a fraction out of it. And then you have to say that it equals the sine of some other angle over the side across from it. And the reason we won't be able to use it is because they didn't give us any of the angles. And you can't solve this kind of proportion. You can't do your cross products and solve it unless you have only one thing you don't know. But you see how we have two things we don't know.
Yeah.
So that means that all of these are wrong. So it has to be one of these two things. These two are using a rule called the law of cosines, and it's the only way you would be able to do this problem. And it's a big formula that it goes like this. C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine C. That's the whole formula. So let me scoot the paper a tiny bit. So that's why all of these numbers are squared like this. Okay? So this number here is the only thing that's an angle. And all of the rest of this is side lengths in the triangle. The C and the A and the B, those are all sides in the triangle. This is the only thing that's an angle. And this is the angle that we're solving for. Okay? So see how this is a C and then this is also a C over here?
Yeah.
This is the side opposite from this angle.
Yeah.
So where's the side opposite from the angle they want us to solve for is 14. So 14 has to be the number that's right here.
Yeah.
So I know the answer is this one.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that has the side across from the angle they want you to solve.
Yeah.
But it's a big, long formula that you never learned yet because it's like, it's very difficult trigonometry. So really what I'm saying to you is this. Out of all of that practice test, they had this question that you've never learned about and this question that you've never learned anything about. And they only did those two questions to be super challenging, and everything else you already knew or you already saw it before. All right, let me press stop.